What's going on, boxing fans? It's Julian Williams with The Distance. I'm here to give you my mailbag question, one of my mailbag questions for today. This is about I was asked by one of my subscribers to touch on the art of defensive boxing. What are my thoughts on the art of defensive boxing? Honestly, I think that defensive boxing is a lost art in the sport. A lot of fans don't really appreciate, defensive boxing because you'll get a lot of backlash and critique from fans saying the style's boring or just that because they're not pressing action or whatever. But sometimes defensive fighting is just as entertaining as some of the fast paced action that you get in a lot of fights. So I personally believe that defensive boxing is a lost art in the sport. Not saying that there's not many defensive boxers, because there's a lot of defensive boxers. There's a lot of boxers who are slick or waits for countering opportunities and use their defense as their advantage. I can name so many fighters. I can name fighters like Benny Leonard who uses footwork as an advantage in his fights. His offensive footwork was pretty much his defense, because he would kind of move in and then he would move out, because there were a lot of flat-foot fighters in the lightweight division during his time. So he was able to fight, on his toes, and his offensive movement was kind of his defensive movement as well. Willie Pep, of course, former featherweight champion. Willie Pep knew how to move very well. Was light on his toes, was very elusive, was slick, slipped a lot of shots. I think he even won a round in his career. Won a round without even throwing a single shot. Willie Pep was perhaps the greatest defensive boxer of all time, and a lot of casual fans don't even know who he is. But Willie Pep is, perhaps one of the greatest defensive boxers of all time. Just his movement and poise in the ring was so graceful that more than likely you'll never see somebody of that caliber ever again in the sport of boxing. And on top of that, at that time, it was just a different style. It was different. Fighters fought with a different style back in that era, so he was able to slip, counter, move gracefully around the ring. People called him Will o' the Wisp, just because of how graceful that movement was, and how good he was on his toes, how light he was, how quick he was. Very elusive. Perhaps one of the greatest defensive boxers of all time. Another one I could think of is Archie Moore. Archie Moore kind of was very good. He rolled his shoulder, and he didn't necessarily do like a shoulder roll, say like a James Toney or a Floyd Mayweather, but he did kind of dip his shoulder, slip shots, kind of roll it over, stuff like that. It was very I thought Archie Moore was a bit defensive minded, if you ask me. I thought, because a lot of his shots were counter shots. So Archie Moore was had a good defensive mind. Another one, Floyd Patterson. Floyd Patterson did the peekaboo type style. Slipped a lot of shots, moved a lot, moved his shoulders, countered. He didn't necessarily perfect it, because a lot of shots got in through it. He didn't do it the same way Mike Tyson did, but he was able to. But it worked for him at the time. He slipped shots, he countered. I liked how he would kind of just stand in that shell, and then he would counter, or when somebody would miss, he'd go to the body and just get right back in that stance. He did it very well. He's one of the first fighters. I believe he's one of the first fighters to do that. I think Cus D'Amato had trained him, and he started to do that. I don't remember I don't think he used it in the Olympics when he fought in the Olympics. But overall, Floyd Patterson was a good defensive boxer. Muhammad Ali didn't get hit often early in his career. Didn't get hit much. He used his legs a lot. He used his legs. He was able to evade shots just because his reflexes were so quick, and people weren't able to hit him. But at the same time, later in his career, when he kind of lost that speed, the speed that he had, in 64, 66, when he was a champion, when he lost some of that speed from being out of the ring for so long, his second line of defense was his chin. And you get that with a lot of fighters like a George Chuvalo. That his line of defense was his chin. So Muhammad Ali, his line of defense was pretty much movement. And and a lot of people call him a runner, stuff like that. But hey, it's a way, it's mastering the art. It's a sweet science. So Ken Norton had kind of a crab-like stance. He would kind of just stand, and he would take shots to his glove, put his glove up where people weren't able to hit him. He was able to get away with that in the heavyweight division, but in the lighter divisions, I don't think he would have been able to get away with it. Another fighter I could think of course, Pernell Whitaker. Pernell Whitaker, it was hard to hit him. Very hard to hit him. It's hard to touch him. There's a lot of clips of Pernell Whitaker here on YouTube. I suggest you guys check out his clips because he was an amazing defensive boxer. Pernell Whitaker, just moved around a lot, evaded a lot of shots, and was very quick, and then he was so quick that I remember seeing a fight with him. He was in the corner, and the fighter just wasn't able to catch him. I don't remember which fight it was, and maybe it was a clip I saw or something. But he was in the corner, and when a lot of fighters are trapped in the corner, they can't get out and they get hit a lot. And he wasn't even touched in the corner. So Pernell Whitaker gave a lot of fighters trouble, and this is a recent time of when it happened. And James Toney, another defensive fighter, masters the art of sweet science. Counters with that right hand a lot. Uses the shoulder roll, rolls the shoulders quite a bit, and basically his offense is set from that. It's set from that defensive stance. Floyd Mayweather, who I think perfected the shoulder roll. His father used it as well. Rolled the shoulder, moved it a lot. But I thought that Floyd Mayweather Jr., I thought that he kind of perfected it and mastered it down. Because with James Toney got hit a lot. Floyd doesn't get hit as much using the shoulder roll as James Toney does. James Toney gets hit quite a bit with his, but Floyd is able to stay in the pocket and not only stay in the pocket and they miss shots, but he could stay in the pocket and he could counter within the pocket, staying in the pocket and countering it and stuff. So it's Floyd Mayweather and the last person I'm going to bring up Winky Wright. Winky Wright stands in that shell. He stands in the shell, and when you stop punching, he starts punching, and he gets back in the shell, and it's hard to hurt him, and it's hard to it's hard to hurt him, and it's hard to catch him with a good shot, because just because he stands in that shell, and then when you stop punching, he gets out of the shell and he lands and he's accurate. He's very accurate with his shots coming out of that shell. And a lot of people like HBO they don't air his fights, or they don't approve of a lot of his fights. I think that Winky Wright deserves a lot of credit for what he's done in boxing as far as defense goes. Because with that style, it's very hard to some styles are just very hard to face with that defensive posture. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the art of defensive boxing is that it is a lost art, and I think that people should appreciate the art of defensive boxing, because there's a lot of fighters who are not defensive minded, but their careers do not last as long as fighters who are always on the defensive. Because when they get hit a lot, the face kind of falls apart, they get cut, like Arturo Gatti, and the scar tissue and all that stuff. So it is a lost art, because these fighters last a lot longer in the sport. But anyway, that's my thoughts on defensive boxing. I think it's a lost art. So thanks for watching. That was The Distance. Peace.